Alright folks, welcome to this exciting video where you once again join us in the beautiful landscape of Scotland. For this adventure we're joined by special guest Highlander 87, and today we've come to an incredibly historical old Scottish estate, which was a thriving Scottish estate way back even in like the 1200s and such like. And this is actually the first unique historical item. On the maps this is marked as being a mound, and there's actually a monument on top of it here, but the monument was actually built because this is the mound apparently the lady of the estate stood on as she watched her husband sailing out to the North Sea in his ship, and you can actually see the North Sea in the far distance, and seemingly he was sailing out to war and he never came home. So that's an interesting nugget. And look at this, hey, this is the mound right here, and this is the monument. And look, you can actually see how it's landscaped, the three different levels. And look at this intricate stonework. At Panmure I have actually documented some, like a pillar and then a unique folly which was designed to look like an abandoned castle. But on today's video we've actually come to this estate to document a genuine abandoned castle that was actually built here on Panmure in 1224. Can you believe that history? 1224 folks. Think how long ago that was. And that's the reason we've come into this wild windy land with the autumn colours at this time of year. We're wanting to document the history of the old castle. But this was a cool point here to start the video. Wow, we love seeing stuff like this, little unique nuggets hidden in wild lands of Scotland. These old estates have often got the finest of stonework and things built within them. There was often no expense spared, and some of these people were like the richest families around. And like the Maules, which actually owned Panmure Estate, used to own all the way up Glen Esk and such like places that we visit. So it's amazing to think the size and the acreage of the land that the people used to own. It's really incredible. And look at these beautiful long old drives, still well kept and well maintained. The scene here today folks is just incredible, with this mossy road that we're walking down and the way it just goes down through this avenue of trees. At this time of year the colour in the trees just brings it to life. And just to consider how long there's been stuff constructed in this area. The castle we're about to look at was constructed in the 1200s and it was actually destroyed in the 1300s.
Over 100 years.
So like there's actually been a lot of Scottish history in this area, like historic battles and such like in the 14th century in the lands of the forest which lays nearby here. And around that time, that's when this castle here would have been destroyed. The battle which took place near here was probably related to the castle. Kind of the army would have been sent out, and it's been mad carnage. At one time Scotland was the front line of probably one of the biggest wars that was going on in the world, and for many years it was the same way. And some of the stuff we document with videos like this are the scars and skeletons of the buildings which remain from that time. And it's cool that castles and strongholds like that in the land are still there. I believe in the 1300s it was actually repaired once it had been destroyed, and then the people who, well, the Maules and that, they actually built in the 17th century the new big house, Panmure House, which has now also been demolished, and it's only the stables which remains from that nowadays. Well, there's other outer small buildings and stuff, but the main big house is just fully gone. So that's a little rundown here on the history of Panmure. To the right hand side here, it's like a big den or a gorge between us and the other side there. Wow, there is actually an old estate gas works as well, but I'm thinking we'll save that for the next adventure on the channel folks. Today it's all about this castle. It's so cool. I love the way these drives just weave through the land and they just go on for miles. Look at this folks, this is the old Panmure Gardens here, which is a beautiful stone walled garden. And then look at this here, this is actually called the Panmure Nurseries, this building here. And I'm guessing this is where they reared the little plants and shrubs and stuff for the estate. Sometimes these big houses and mansions and castles and such like places had gardens like this for their produce to actually feed the castle. Yeah, look at this, the character of these buildings folks. Wow, the old gardens. Look at the old door and stuff. I love to see this. We're getting a wee essence here of Panmure Estate, a wee bit of land we had never seen. Look at the detail with those urns and stuff up on top of the wall. Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, the roof and stuff's fully fallen in on this middle bit. That must have been an important room there at one time, because look, they've got bars on the window. Let's take a peek in this door. Whoa! It's got the old limestone render and such like. Wow, this is cool. More abandoned scenes of Scotland right here, folks. And every week we're bringing you new history or new items that we just had never seen before. I've got a super green arm now after leaning against that door. Yeah, look, this is interesting because these ones have got the barred windows, which is a super cool detail. And look at the detail even on the metal work around that door handle. That must have had one of those pushy latches originally. And it's had the upstairs window, but look at that amazing stone construction on top of the wall. And there's been like a wee shed or a garage. The conditions are so cold today, folks. We are freezing cold. Our hands and stuff, when we were walking down there in the cold wind, it was just amazing. Sometimes you do get acclimatised though, once you've walked for a certain amount of time. When I look at the details of a building like this, it's amazing just to see before it has fallen down forever. Sometimes you often just get a wee chance for a scene of history like this, and then before you know it, kind of thing like this could get renovated or changed. And look, you can see the original carving marks on the stone there. After a few years it chips off and then you can't actually see how it was. After a certain amount of time, the history just disappears. Look, this is cool because it's had little sliding roller doors on here at a certain time. For some reason, why would they have had that? Oh, that's what they do, look at that. See what it might have been? They might have gotten the heat. Ken how some of those greenhouses and that were heated? The hot air maybe actually came through. Look at the old door. Wow, we're really stepping back in time here, folks, at Panmure Estate. This was an estate that was thriving well into the 1900s. And even to this day, they still do estate operations, I believe. But yeah, that's interesting. That's a cool building as well. That must have been where they went into the main walled garden. Wow, folks, obviously we always come with respect of landowners and building owners. We're never here kind of like looking at private buildings and things. It's all just the abandoned, open things we're interested in. I think we need to kind of make our way out the other end of here and along, because I think that's into like a fenced off area. I can see a monkey puzzle tree and stuff over there, and they were often imported. Estates like this had rare plants, shrubs and trees. So now I can see in the walled garden from this side, folks, you can see on the back wall through that gate there's actually been greenhouses built onto there at a certain time, and that'll make sense. They would be getting the hot air out of there and sometimes feeding it into the wall. Yeah, you would have gone through from the offices or buildings we saw at the side and then come out into the main greenhouse, and it must have been a phenomenal walled garden. Probably one of the best. Sometimes I believe Panmure had some of the best of everything, because the Maule's family back in Scottish history were as great as the Ogilvies originally. And it's a sad thing because that's two families and bloodlines now which are absolutely nothing. And it's just stuff like this. It's the legacy of the buildings and things that's left behind. See the construction of that house down there? It's so fine finished. It's absolutely beautiful. Yeah, we basically need to punch on over here. See in front of us, I can actually see the moat. Wow. I believe that is the moat. This castle's got like a moat apparently, and that was a defensive ditch to prevent easy attack from a certain angle of advance of an enemy. And this is basically it we're approaching now. And you can see it in the ground. There's a massive gorge in front of us. Look at this, folks, it still actually holds a body of water right in front of us, this huge section of water. And I believe the castle's actually straight over this ridge. I can actually see some incredible rare trees as well within this area. folks, this is what we're making our way across to find the realest cool history on the channel once again. This is one of the craziest climbs right now, folks. Highlander just went up that way. I'm going up this way and it's mad because it's a slippy, muddy slope. And over here, oh, there's the remains. Panmure Castle, folks. Just think, 1200s. Like literally how long ago that was. As you can see, all this has been freshly felled. And the reason they've got a moat here is because it was the area which the most needed to have a moat. It doesn't go all the way around the castle like some other castle moats you may expect to see, but that's because this castle's got the original defence of the land, because there's actually a burn leads right around past here, and the shape of the land is like a natural barrier, but there's a big hollow along the far side, and then this man-made moat, and then over to this side the natural defence of the land. And I'm going to have a wee look over there as well to see what the other defence is like at the far edge of the ridge. Anyway folks, let's head over. I'm going to stick to the track here from the forwarder. So here we are, folks, reaching the edge of what would have been Panmure Castle. And just think about the incredible history here in the 1300s when this was actually under attack. Yeah, there's a natural sheer drop down that side. Look here how thick this outer wall originally was. This is the outside edge. And then look at this. Here's the other edge of that same wall. And this has been one of the corner rooms of the castle. To see the thickness of that wall there, that's like 7 foot thick, I would say. Or maybe more, 7.5 foot thick potentially. And then you can see the lie of the land here. The castle steps back in. And there's more stone remains. I'm going to take a walk right to the far edge and we'll come right around the castle and then we'll check out the central part so we'll get an idea of the layout of this. I think it was like a big square according to the original map, like depictions. But I think all this, obviously stone may have been taken from this castle for the construction of like Panmure House and stuff at more modern times. And also some of this stone may have been reconstructed after it was destroyed in the 1300s. But just think, even if that is the case, how long ago since these stones were laid? This is genuine ancient Scottish history right here, folks. Yeah, Highlander's got a picture of the map on his phone here. It looks like the stone that they've built this castle here from looks like grey sandstone, but it's maybe red sandstone that's just got that mouldy kind of green algae and stuff on. Yeah, I'm thinking the wall was down this way, this side as well, and then it's had that part, and then the main tower of the castle's been in the centre there. But it's just incredible to visualise the land, to imagine all that time ago, maybe how different it looked all around here. See this as well, this is an incredible level area, but it doesn't look like it's built with stone. So it's like the edge of the stone comes to here. Each corner's got these mad towers, it's almost like what was up there. Once again, look at the thickness here, folks, of the wall. The wall is actually thicker than the room within it. But it would have been built here to actually protect the corner of the main castle where you can see Highlander standing now. He would have been on one of the main internal walls. And yeah, it's super interesting. Obviously there was actually the well and stuff within the grounds of the castle, and they often had that so if they were under siege they could get a fresh source of water and they could stay alive for weeks or months on end in those places. But it's amazing to see how narrow and thin this little room is here at the corner. Unreal. And look at this, the edge of the tower building. It's just so crazy, folks. I love taking in every detail and seeing stuff like this. It's just blowing my mind right now. You can see the quality of the stones as well. Some are fine cut, others quite rough. And that seems to be the overall construction of the castle. And look how this outer wall leads its way right around the edge. Wonder if we can figure out where the original front door was to this castle. It's amazing how a lot of these old castles from this time period were built like with a natural defence of a river or a burn.
I think it would be at the side of the moat, the entrance, because of the cliffs that are around it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Highlander's saying the entrance is likely to be at the side of the moat, so that was the easiest like side to access the castle from. Now look, somebody's scored their name into this tree at an ancient time. See, you would think this has been an entrance, but I think this is one of these castles that's had the high outer wall and then the other buildings within the wall, again built into the outer wall, but also there'd be a bit inside you could probably walk about.
So it'd be like a fort.
Yeah, like a massive fortified, yeah, that's cool. A fortified hilltop right here, folks, and it's amazing because it goes all the way to that higher edge. I think there's been a main tower in the middle where you see that mound. And look, this has been another one of these corner towers or buildings of some sort built onto the corner. It is so cool to see it. Look at this little bit down here. See, that's interesting because that's like a little alcove kind of bit that's cut in. Oh look, is this not old steps? Look, this looks like this area has always been within the design, being like this. So not unless you would have come up this way, and then there's been a way in, and maybe that's where a guard used to sit on like a bench. Again, I'm imagining there's a whole wall there, and then there'd be a little seat here. The boy would maybe be sitting, and then if anybody that came up, he would be saying, "What's your business up here, boy?" Like, here's an old bottle of ale, maybe from the original prison guard. Yeah, that's super cool to see it. Yeah, so look at this, folks, we're actually on top of the castle wall, and you can see the internal squares of the buildings along this side. And then this must have been maybe like a windy or a bit that's been cut out. Again, the wall's been thinner here, maybe a window, I'm thinking. Wow, the trees have just freshly been cut out of here, I would say, in the last week or two.
Back in those times, it was for defence, so it
Yeah.
might be narrow.
This castle would have been 100% a defensive, strategic stronghold in the land. See as well, the inner walls here, you can see are a lot thinner than the outer defensive walls. When you consider they're like 7.5 foot thick over there, this one's only like 2.5 foot thick, I would say. Let's go and have a look at this back corner of the castle. Yeah, this is so interesting. These places are absolutely mad to explore. This is a real proper corner to the castle, this one. Wow. It's like there's been a wee bit down here as well. I'm going up and down this hill, folks, but I'm trying to get it from all angles. Yeah, look at this, eh? Wow. The way that is. That's like an old lintel. Could have been. I wonder if there's been another one of these little corner buildings at this corner as well. Like a defensive, strategic. It's unusual though. Yeah, that is interesting, folks. The way it juts out. The sun's at a poor angle at this time of year often for creating a big shadow. That's how I was coming around to get it for this side. But I think the way that steps out, that's like what we've seen at some of the other corners. And look how it's built on down to this. Yeah, it's like a bridge or something over the river down there. Aye, that would be a way across. Yeah, wow, it's amazing how high the walls are at this corner. Imagine how high this castle originally was. Such a fine structure. Yeah, the internals are amazing as well. You can see the footprint of each little building. And each one would have been a thing. Maybe there was actually soldiers stationed in there in a keep, and then at that time it was them that was sent out to have the battle in the nearby piece of land which is now a forest, where they were actually defeated. Yeah, look at this, it's amazing. Little entrances or doorways. Check this out, look at the fine detail here of this. It's like steps in, which is unusual. It's unusual the way that it's shaped. It's like a rectangular bitty. And look, this has been a little corner room of some sort. Look at the shape of these rooms. The unusual thing with this castle, it's a funny, like, mixture of little rooms. Ken, what I think this could be? I think this is an entrance to the underground originally. That's what I was just about to say. Because I think it steps in like this for a reason. And I think the reason would be that it goes down steps. Wow folks, I love taking in every angle and getting under those trees just to see it. There's no obvious sign that it would go under the ground. The thickness of this bit I'm standing on as well, it's just incredible. It is so interesting, eh? Is this nowhere they said that the well was, roughly in the middle here? This here might have a very, very deep hole underneath it, folks, and anywhere at these castles it could be. So you always have to watch your foot. Sometimes they used to put wooden boards over the top of a well, and they can rot out over years, and then if you stood on top of them you could just be a goner, falling right in. Highlanders reckoning the well's over here, somewhere roughly. Yeah, it's maybe where that deep hole is in front of you. Well, it looks like, see, it looks like there could be such a thing, kind of like there, because the ground is quite low here. And then look, that's the edge of another internal wall, which is cool. A lot of these places though, like I say, they did have wells within the structure. Yeah, because there's been another wee entrance coming in here for some reason. And it's like that corner room here has been accessed from the outer edge, because these walls are high all the way around it. Wow folks, Panmure Castle, it comes to life when you walk around the building like this. You can actually start imagining the original people that may have been kicking about here. And it would have been the soldiers of the day, or the people that was basically controlling the land. They had strongholds like this all over the place. To see this one built in the 1200s and then destroyed in the 1300s, and then rebuilt for a certain amount of time before they actually built a far more superior mansion house, it's just mad.
This bit here is higher than the rest of the...
Yeah, it is crazy, eh? All those rooms are lower down, and then this ones are higher up. Yeah, that's how, like you said originally, it's likely maybe the original entrance came in for here. Ken, you might have come down steps or something into the main castle in the centre. I've not looked right in the middle yet to see what there is. Let's have a wee snoop about in this central piece. That's what I quite like doing, relocations sometimes, going around the perimeter and then coming into the centre, and then you can really get an aspect of the whole site. It saves you actually missing any little detail. It is just really boggy, but it's quite a mound. And if you consider there was maybe a lot of stones kind of just in a big pile for the longest time. Yeah, it's just a hellhole of nettles these days within this area. This area here, like you said over there's high areas and then low areas. Because compared to these buildings, or these rooms, this is super low down. Like, this will be the original door into this room here. It's amazing, from like the 1200s you can still figure out where the door was into the building. And then this was maybe directly the edge of the main castle. You maybe came in these side rooms before you got into the main central complex. But then even to the outside it may have been a real high building. But the main entrance to the castle has either been at that side, I would say, or over here where we saw those steps coming up. Because those steps would bring you to this yard section. There has been walls here as well, and there's been a door at this point. You can see the edge of the door with that mossy stone there. Yeah, what a cool spot, and because the trees are felled, you get more of an idea of how it probably looked when this place was first constructed. I think an original approach would have actually been up this way. Here, I'm wanting to have a wee look over that ridge, because that's a natural defence that they've used in the land. Yeah, it's surrounded by just natural defences. A bit like that medieval castle, Inverquaich, as we visited. Remember, it was next to the Ailith Burn. Yeah. And it was just on the edge a bit like this. This has been a big castle though. When you see it from here, all the way to those corner towers, I think a lot of stones has been taken from here, because I think this would have looked like that. Kind of how it steps out so much.
They used to build Panmure House.
I think so. Panmure House was a massive house, and there is still just a bit of it left, and you think that the bit that's left looks like a big house. So to consider how massive the original mansion was, it's just crazy. And it is interesting how they dug such a deep moat originally,
Yeah.
and that was maybe the earth and mud they took out of it on that ridge. Just think what they were digging that out with back then, like an old iron shovel, probably hand dug. I'm not sure what they had for a wheelbarrow. I'm not sure if they would have been able to nip as far as B&Q from here. Yeah, look at this here. Here's the natural ridge in the land. That's another thing we like looking at with these old castles and stuff. Looking at the way they're strategically positioned on the land for the art of warfare at such an old time. In the early days of like weaponry and such like things, these castles were defended basically against the weapons of that era. And just look at this, eh? That must just be that little burn that's worn its way down through this land over years.
Maybe it could almost join up with the moat.
Yeah, the moat seems to be that one coming out there. So we're passing by the edge of the castle once again, folks, and we're going down what I think would have been an original track which passes by it, because I noticed there's a wee bridge at the bottom of this hill. Hopefully we can go and document it, because I think it'll have loads of character. It's been there since the 1800s at least, so just think the character of this wee bridge standing the test of time. And just imagine the castle here standing on this hill, potentially built on the site of even an older hill fort. Sometimes that's the thing with these Scottish castles as well. They're built on like prehistoric sites which were already fortified, and sometimes the foundations and the level groundwork was already done in a prehistoric time. So yeah, like the forwarder's been coming down this way as well. Sometimes it'd be difficult to operate and do timber operations in some environments. Sometimes the ground's quite soft under your tyres, and then other times it's these steep slippery slopes. This is incredible, folks. It was totally worth coming down to this bridge. This has got the same character as that old castle, and I just love to see it with the ivy or whatever it is. Oh, it's bits of fir tree and stuff hanging down off it. I just love to see the bridge, folks, with this old construction, the way it goes over the burn and the way it has stood the test of time. It could have been actually an old approach at one time to the castle, which is on this hill up here. You know, look at it. It's just like Mother Nature takes over after a few years. It's quite eerie walking over here. Check it out, folks, it's just so cool. There's actually an interesting pillar up here which has got a pipe up the middle of it, and it used to actually be a feature when the laird and lady were going for a walk. The gardeners of the estate would get the word, and they would pull a handle which operated a lever, and the water used to come up the pipe out the middle of the pillar, and it was a water feature of its era. And that would have been back in the ancient times, like 1800s and such like. Yeah, the pillar should be over here. Look at this old tree. There's actually people written on this tree as well, look. Many years ago. This is a cool tree. I can see why folk would come here and hang out if you stayed on the estate or whatever. Look at this, folks. We've actually walked a bit further through the forest. Look, we've seen this pile of stones. Look, it's got a pipe sticking out the top, and we think that's it. It would have been a pillar, but it's so old that the river water's actually washed most of it away. I think that could be it, because there is a metal pipe sticking out the top. And I wonder, would that be where the water was coming through that pipe, and then coming round and out of there?
Maybe.
It is interesting, folks. You can see it there, there's a metal pipe. But I was expecting more of a stone pillar rather than what we're seeing here. Over at this side you can see it, it's just literally that. But that makes sense as to where it is. And then I'm not sure, that could even be a water supply there potentially for like a house. Yeah, that maybe is it, I think, because it makes sense with the pipe sticking out the top. What a crazy place we find ourselves in. Some of these trees are super rare and ancient. giant sequoias and things like that, I'm sure. This one here, I'm not sure what type this is. I think there's like Scots pines and other madnesses. Look at the size of some of these ones. And yeah, I think potentially we could maybe, there's another bridge further around here, an old stone bridge. Look at it there, folks, there's the little stone bridge. And then look, there's like a little drain or something underneath it there. Anyway, let's punch on back up past the castle. I've actually got another location on this estate to document, but this video in particular has been all about the castle. I think the original paths come over the bridge and then up this way. But I think over the years it's obviously changed with the trees and stuff growing, and then probably stonework and stuff rumbling down for the top of the hill at a certain time when the castle got destroyed. I think I could just go up this way. Some of this moss on top of the earth is actually some of the slippiest stuff. Yes, folks, we're going up the edge of this castle. Imagine this back in the day when the folk were shooting down arrows and such like on your head. Whoa, it's a madness out here. I was invading the castle up the steep slope. Yes, we've made it to the edge of the castle ruin. So there we are, folks, Panmure Castle, 1224. Genuine Scottish history right here, and you couldn't get any closer to it than this. There it is, folks. Another madness on this channel, and another bit of history just hidden within a forest. Every year the weeds and stuff grow up all around a thing like this. So I think this has been an original walkway through the middle of this castle here. You can kind of see it, it's the perfect shape for me to go through. And just think what people may have walked through there at one time. It's amazing to bring this history alive on the channel. Just visualising it and seeing what's here from such ancient times in the land. And the well could really be anywhere, like roughly. There is an interesting like bit in the ground there that's hollow, but then I'm not sure. Wow, folks, I'm gassed out still after climbing up that steep hill. This may have been one of the doors in, but it's hard to tell.
Really hard to tell,
Yeah, because there's no actual pillars or fancy gate posts. Yeah, it's hard to know. It's so interesting though to theorise. The interesting architectural detail, it's like the wall comes down like that, and then look at slopes there, we find finished stone onto the main foundation. And that shows if these walls over here were like that, they wouldn't have actually been as thick as what the base stones would suggest. The wall further up would have actually been about a foot thinner, considering the slope on the lower stones. So that's another cool detail that people maybe didn't consider when they look at the wall foundations. Yeah, the moat's total miles away. But then with the flooding area, maybe they could have crops and stuff, or maybe a few cows, a few sheep. And then like, maybe if they had come under attack, they would usher all that sort of stuff into the main castle. Here's this mad outer wall that we first saw. And what a crazy wee adventure that's been, folks. It's been another bit of history we had never seen before. This time a castle from such ancient times. It's amazing there's so much here to be seen. And then even to see the mark and remains of the moat, which is over that ridge from where we can see that pile of earth. It's just crazy that the land itself stands here like that, telling the story of history. It's like I say, it's a scar or skeleton of the history, and sometimes you have to take the clues from what's left to see, and on this channel we've brought it to life. Anyway, I'll end this one here, folks, to see where we end up next. Tune in again soon. Goodbye from me, goodbye from Highlander 87, and we'll see you very soon for the next one, wherever we end up going.